This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Everybody Lies, our House MD podcast, the best one on the planet. I can't speak about Mars or the moon.
True.
Podcast on the moon, starring Andy Kaufman and his brother Charlie Kaufman.
Yep, Charlie Kaufman.
Oh,
nice. We're calling back to 2 episodes ago, even though that was like a week ago. Good job.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't a week ago. It was like 4 days.
Fresh references.
Great.
So this episode of House is entitled Role Model, and it's starring Barrack Obama.
Yeah, I actually watched this. I forgot I watched this one. It was before Mixergate, which we've never come to a satisfying conclusion, in my opinion.
Right.
And so, I'm like, I watched the episode after it, and when you said we watched Role Models, I'm like, oh shit, I completely forgot about that because it'd been a while.
Yeah. Big shout out to Rode, by the way, who fixed the mixer for free. So
very nice.
Gave it to us for free and fixed it for free. So thank you very much for that.
Very nice. I cannot remember where this guy's from. The guy who played it really obviously is like a parallel to Barack Obama at the time.
Yeah, for sure. Because he's a black senator and he's going to run for president. And he's, he's not doing a Barack Obama impersonation, but it's, he was obviously cast because he looks vaguely like him.
This guy is in something else and it's going to kill me. Is he in The Matrix? No. That's not what it is. It's an episode of the X-Files.
Okay.
He's an episode of the X-Files where it's something about a bank robbery. I think he's living backwards in time or something like that. Yeah, and he's been in a lot of other stuff too, but that's what I remember him from the X-Files.
I don't remember that episode of the X-Files, but that
it's like a murder mystery, like told in reverse. Like he's like executed the first day, and then and I think Mulder also goes back in time.
Okay. Yeah,
it's okay. I can't remember what it's called, but that's what I know him from, and I could have sworn he was in some other sci-fi type thing.
He reminds me. Is he Miles Dyson?
That's
Terminator?
Yes. That's who it is. It's Miles Dyson. I cannot figure out who I was thinking of, but it's Miles Dyson for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking I didn't want to be stereotypical. He looks a lot like Miles Dyson, but just because he's black. But I thought that was him.
There's a reason he looks a lot like him.
And it was weird in this episode. He's holding a weight over a detonator. With a big smile on his face. Actually, there is one point where he's kind of he's doing this thing where he can hardly breathe, just kind of in Terminator 2. So maybe that's his thing. Maybe he's really good at acting he can barely breathe.
Yeah, I guess he's good at that.
But
he's good. I like him in this and Terminator 2.
But so this episode opens.
Do you like Terminator 2 better than you like Terminator 1?
I actually like Terminator 1 better. It's very, very, very close.
Yeah, I think they're very different movies too. The first one's almost a horror movie, but not quite.
Yep.
The second one's very much an adventure / action.
Mm-hmm. And the third one's like a romantic comedy.
And the third one's like I don't know. It's a giant piece of shit, pretty much.
I really do think it's like a sci-fi rom-com with Claire Danes and I can't remember who plays
John Connor's
John Connor
lady.
The most forgettable John.
Nick Stahl. Nick Stahl is in that one.
Yeah. But
the most unforgettable one is the one in Salvation. I don't even know his fucking name. Oh no, that's not true. That's Christian Bale.
I was going to say, isn't that Christian Bale?
I've seen the Kyle Reese guy in that one. I like the ending of the Terminator 3, but yeah, it's not very good.
Nah, it's not a good movie.
Although, if you like seeing people shoot rocket launchers into mausoleums, this movie's for you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you like a minigun coming out of a coffin, this movie's for you.
I don't get how you can make a third Terminator and it's not as good as the second Terminator. It's like, what the fuck's happening over there at Cyberdyne Systems?
Yeah, no kidding.
And do they still call themselves that? Are they remaining a corporate entity after the apocalypse?
Unfortunately for me, I have now seen all the Terminators except for the very newest one, which I'll probably see at one point. And I think they changed the name from Cyberdyne to Genesis, I think it is.
Oh, there was a movie called Genesis, so maybe they did.
Yeah, I think in Genesis it's not Skynet anymore. Like they successfully stopped it, but now it's Genesis. But this most recent one they did wipes away everything after Terminator 2, so it's just Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, and then this new one.
I like that the Terminators felt the need to rebrand themselves at a certain point.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine them, like, sitting around a boardroom, like a bunch of, like, T-1000s, like, damn it! Cyberdyne system sounds too cold and impersonal.
Right.
What if we convince the humans that we're the next generation of life form? Genesis.
One guy, like, snaps off the news and is like, look, we're getting killed out there in the media. People think that we're weak. We need to, we need a hot new model.
Right. I wonder if they basically the Terminator movie is actually about corporations and how they're able to skirt the law and do whatever they want without control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, why would they still? That makes no sense. Why would they still be a corporation afterwards or call them? I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't think we're talking about that today.
No. So this episode begins with Miles Dyson giving a speech. Miles Dyson / I'll call Miles Obama. Miles Obama is giving a speech, and he starts to feel a little under the weather.
You can't do that because if it ever becomes searchable, some right-wing person's gonna be like, Miles Obama was her name before she became Michelle. Dude, I see that all the time. There's a lot of people, I hope they're trolling. Maybe they're just not very bright. I don't know, but it's like, oh, Michelle Obama used to be a man.
Yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah, it's telling you. But so Michelle Obama is giving a speech, and so Obama, Miles Dyson, I don't remember, I don't know his real name or his name in the show. But anyway, he's giving a speech.
We're doing good.
And he starts to feel under the weather, and then this guy is like, "Hey, I'm with the unions. We can give you a bunch of money, but you gotta talk our language or whatever." And then he throws up on him, like I'm sure most politicians want to do with some of these donors.
Right.
But anyway, he gets rushed to the hospital. Vogler, wants House to take the case because it's a big, high-profile case, good for the hospital. All that stuff. At the same time, from last episode, he has convinced House that he has to give a speech about the new drug that his company has come out with. I think it's a blood pressure pill or something like that, which has been rebranded.
I think, isn't it for kidneys or something like that?
Something like that. It's been... The only thing that's been added is like an antacid has been added into it.
Right, yeah. House basically says his company just reformulates existing medicines and, ups the price so that, they'll make tons of money and profits.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. People might think that I'm a pretty big liberal, I guess, or whatever you think about me, however much of my politics I've let go through. But I will say...
A liberal doesn't have a reading group about the Turner Diaries, okay? Nice book club, Mark.
I will say, God, I fucking love your references. I will say that I like it in this instance. I think that pharmaceutical companies, because basically the way it works is pharmaceutical company patents a drug. I believe it's 7 years. They have 7 years to to sell the drug, and then generics can start to make generic versions of it, and that's what happens. I don't think there should be a limitation, at least not one as little as 7 years. Pharmaceutical companies, for whatever you say about them, and there's bad things that they do, there's price gouging and different things like that they do, but they spend like millions and millions and close to billions of dollars on research and development for all these different drugs, and then they get 7 years to make as much money as they possibly can and try to recoup their money, and then generics can swoop in and just be like, okay, now we're making the pill too, even though we didn't do any work. So I think that that practice should be changed. I think they should be able to have at least longer, if not like somewhat indefinite, at least longer patents on the drugs, because they are putting a ton of money and research into it.
What about if generics paid a kickback to the original manufacturer? Like, say they paid like 20% in perpetuity or something like that. That wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah, that would be fine too. Something like that. I think they should be. I'm all about fairness, so I think that this company's putting a bunch of money into developing drugs that do really help people. I think they should be allowed to continue to reap the benefits financially from that. And for the most part, for most people, you're not stuck paying hundreds of dollars or anything like that. Even for the non-generic brands, because insurance does pick up a majority of it. So it's the insurance company's paying a little bit more, and everything. But I think they wouldn't price gouge as much if they were allowed to make money for longer from it. So
Maybe they would though.
yeah, it's possible. But yeah, I think a kickback wouldn't be a bad idea. But I don't think they should have to try to recoup so much money in such a little amount of time. When they put some of these drugs, they put 15, 20 years of research into these drugs, and a ton of money. And
Yeah, I don't know exactly, to be honest with you, though, if we have the truth from either side.
mhm,
'Cause, I mean, yeah, they say they spent, but they didn't spend all those years and all those dollars exclusively pursuing one single drug without getting additional benefits. I'm
that's
sure they
true.
discovered other things in the process. Like with Viagra, it was initially, I think, to control blood pressure.
Yeah.
So, they're working, it's not like, well, it doesn't do the blood pressure thing, let's discard it. They made like a very lucrative drug from something that they probably still went ahead and figured out the blood pressure thing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely true, and I think there's a balance. I think that the patent thing, I think, kind of skews a little too much towards the like kind of anti-capitalist side, in my opinion. But we don't have to go like extreme the other way. But I think there's a balance that could benefit everybody a little bit the other way. So, but anyway, that small that turned out to be long aside out of the way. So Vogler wants House to give a speech about this drug, which obviously House doesn't want to do, but he's going to do it so that he doesn't have to fire somebody. Basically, Vogler just wants him to do what he's told. He wants to exhibit, kind of like in that one episode titled Control, he wants to exhibit some kind of control over House and be comfortable in the fact that he knows if he asks House to do something, no matter how detestable it is, that he will do it.
Yeah, it really is just become like a personal agenda, by far at this point.
Mhm. Yeah, because he views him as a liability. He views him as like something that's going to get in the way of how he wants this hospital to run. So he either needs to buckle under or he needs to go. That's kind of Vogler's attitude about it. It doesn't have anything to do with profits. It doesn't have anything to do with how like the corporate climate that he wants to instill or anything like that. It just has to do with that Vogler needs people to do exactly what he wants them to do at all times.
Yeah, he's way more interested in making House concede to his power than he is at being right, or even
Hmm.
like a smart businessman like him. If he is a smart businessman, though, I mean, if he just rips people off, who's to say?
Yep.
He's savvy for sure. I mean, he should be able to, if he's a CEO, he should be able to manage House and get the best out of him. But
Hmm.
he's just more interested in making him buckle to his power.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's very, very well put. And I think House is in a lot of ways sort of the opposite. House doesn't care so much about power. He doesn't care about like control or anything like that. I mean, obviously he has a certain amount of that, and he likes the fact that he doesn't like people don't really tell him what to do. But House cares so much more about being right. This is the right thing. This is
Yeah, that's more important. I mean, he doesn't care if it makes him look bad, though. Obviously, he has an ego like anybody else. But yeah, being right, as we later someone else points out in the episode, is really what House is all about.
Yep, absolutely. So, anyway, so the senator goes in, and House is convinced to treat him. At first, I'm trying to remember, what do they think it is first? Shit, I can't remember. And I know at first that they don't think it's that big of a deal. And then they do his blood work, and his T cell counts are like in the floor, and House says basically that I don't know why, and we're back to AIDS. I don't know why this phrase is so funny to me, but every time I hear it, it's just, I don't know. It's not funny, but it makes me laugh for some reason. But he says, he's got full blown AIDS. It's the phrase full blown AIDS. I don't know what's funny about it, but it's funny to me.
Yeah, there's something about that like particular phrase that is especially funny. I don't know why, because it's especially tragic. Maybe that's why. But like, that particular phrasing is like the funniest way to mention AIDS, which is weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But anyway, so he does an AIDS test. It comes back positive. And the senator's like, as it was pointed out earlier in the episode, his wife is dead. His wife has died. And, he's had a couple dates, but nothing really serious. And obviously he's not focusing on that now as he's running for president or getting ready to run for president. And he's like, I can't have AIDS. I've had sex. I think he said he's had sex twice since his wife died with two different women.
Yeah.
And he used protection both times. Like he does. He's not an intravenous.
But his protection was prayer afterward.
That's true. Yeah. His protection was pull and pray.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Again, this is not politically correct, and we are not doctors, but it's the risk of transmitting it with a heterosexual contact is not especially great.
Especially to the man. It's
I bet you know. I don't know how that's an insult.
But anyway, so House doesn't believe him, at first, and then he's like, he basically gives him the speech, and everything, and Foreman has talked to the senator, at one point too. Obviously, they're both black, and he kind of
that's how he talked to him at one point. I'm kidding. I know you're going somewhere, but I couldn't resist that with a pause. Like, you know how they talk.
But he's...
I don't know how they talk.
Get two of them in a room and just watch them go. What
do you mean, watch them? You think they might be doing something?
You better keep an eye on them. Anyway, so he's talking to him about kind of like he's giving him the campaign. He's giving Foreman like kind of like the campaign speech, but he lets him in like a little bit. And so then when he talks to House, because he's talked to House basically in platitudes up until this point, when he talks to House about the AIDS thing, he kind of like he goes into how he talks to Foreman too, where there's a lot of that politician stuff there, but he lets him in a little bit too. And they mention early, and this is another platitude thing. They mention early that he's got a scar on his tongue because when he was a kid, he fell off a swing and bit his tongue or something like that. And House correctly points out, he's like, yeah, that's a hell of a like a polished story or whatever. So he kind of starts out like that, but then he does like kind of let his emotions and like his real persona come through, and House recognizes it. And he runs the second PCR test for AIDS, which comes back negative. So they've put him on antiretrovirals for AIDS. I can't remember who it is, if it's Chase or somebody else. Chase was a sassy bitch in this episode. I'm telling you. He was like, he's not even like, he's just being snarky in the differentials, and House is like, hey, you know that I can't fire you because of Vogler, so you're protected. You're not even like, you're not giving me respect. You're not really even like doing your job in there anymore. And like Chase is like, well, you can't do anything to me. What choice, do you have? You just have to live with it. And it's like, he's basically just like, fuck you to House, which is weird, but anyway, so I think Chase is like just an ass kisser basically, and he gloms onto whoever he thinks is the most powerful ass, and that's the one he kisses, and he's with Vogler right now. So I think that's basically what's going on. But anyway, so Wilson points out, he's like, why'd you run the second test? And he goes, well, you're always supposed to run, 2 tests. And Wilson's like, yeah, because you're all about protocols. And he says he got to you, like you believed in him and everything. And it is like kind of what happened. So now they're trying to figure out what it could possibly be. And his respiration starts to fail, as we mentioned earlier. And then they put him on a ventilator, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong. And do you remember what his epiphany was? Because I'm trying to remember what that epiphany moment was where he realizes
no.
It's something like, I think it has something to do with infection or something like that. But he goes to the senator and he's like, he takes the ventilator off and he's like, he basically says, when you were a kid, you had epilepsy and they gave you some kind of medication for it. What was it? And the guy's he's back to his messaging now. He's dying. Like he's trying to suck in oxygen. And he's like, no seizures since I was 8, no medicine since I was 10. And House is like, yeah, that's right. Just keep on the mess. Don't pay attention to the fact that you can't breathe and you're dying and everything. You're getting dizzy. He's like, what was the medicine called? And he said, pheno something. And he said phenytoin. I think it's phenytonin or toin. And he said, yeah, so he gives him his medicine back. And that's weird. Like, it's an odd, like, kind of tender moment from Hugh Laurie where he's like, you're okay. Everything's okay. After he gives him his oxygen back.
Great.
So then House says that I think it's CVID. I think it is. It's an immunoglobulin disorder. But basically, when he was a kid, he got this medicine which can trigger it, and phenytoin, and it lay dormant for years for some reason, and then the stress of getting ready to run for president basically ended up triggering it, and that's what caused this. So he they put him on IVIG, which is intravenous immunoglobulin, which is something they use a lot for autoimmune diseases and things like that, because basically it's a replacement for white blood cells and things like that. So his T cell counts up, his B cell counts up. This disease basically decimates T cell count and B cell count, which are different types of blood cells that are part of the white blood cells that fight infection. And they point out that he'll have to be on medicine for the rest of his life to help control it, but he, other than that, he's fine. And he said, he's going to run for president. He points out that he knows he can't win, but that winning's not important, that it's, making progress even if he doesn't win, basically. Which is interesting because maybe that was the thought behind Obama at the time, but obviously he did win twice. So yeah, but that's basically, and then House goes to give the speech. I think, yeah, House goes to give the speech, and he says, like, he says the remarks normally for about 30 seconds and then goes to leave, and Vogler's like, you got to say more. And then he basically just kind of trashes the drug. He gives his honest opinion about it.
Right.
And then leaves. And obviously he's going to have to fire somebody. Then Cameron comes to him and says, basically she's like, you don't do what you do because you want to be smart. Like, basically she said, like what we said earlier, you do it because it's right. It's the right thing to do. That's what motivates, like, your every action. And she's like, that's why, I like you. And the only thing I can do about liking you and you not liking me back is leave. I can't be around you, basically. So she's making it easy for him. He doesn't have to fire somebody. She's just going to leave. And that's basically how the episode ends. But yeah, that was the episode of House. What did you think of the episode overall?
It was all right. I mean, it was kind of interesting. I mean, that obviously seemed like a rip from the headlines type of thing, which it does happen, I think, from time to time. Like they'll take like a story from the news in real life and then make it into a plot line. Especially great. It wasn't especially bad. It was nice to see Miles Dyson, even if we forgot who he was for a long.
Right. It was. I would say, it's a decent enough episode, like you said. It's probably one of the weaker ones in the first season, which is a shame because, like you said, I like Miles Dyson as an actor a lot as well, and I think he was very good in this. I think the acting was pretty good in this. I don't think the case was especially interesting. The stuff with Vogler and House is a little more interesting, and that doesn't get a whole lot of play in this episode. I'm trying to remember exactly what the next episode is. I think the next episode is another one where it's not a ton of Vogler and House stuff. They kind of put that a little on the back burner for like a couple episodes in the middle before it starts to really ramp up towards the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, a middling episode for sure. Certainly not the best in season one, but season one is overall is really solid. So it's a solid episode, but just not great.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, I actually didn't watch one after it, or most of it. So that one is very good. So I'm looking forward to finishing it and reporting on it next time. Back to you, Mark.
All right. Well, we are done here. I'm gonna go talk to the boys from Brazil, and and we will see you next time. Bye.
See you next time.